Hey, it's Chuck, hometown boy from Stowe, Ohio, Walsh Jesuits' own, one of the nastiest Buckeyes in history, both on and off the field. Mike Vrabel is coming home to Northeast Ohio to join the Cleveland Browns as a personnel and coaching consultant. Thank you, Brownies, for keeping him off of Luke Fickell's staff and out of Madison. I did not want to see that happen. That might have been a little scary. And as far as what exactly this role means, I have no idea. But we're talking about a guy who has an NFL career winning record, been to the playoffs, won a couple playoff games, 3 Super Bowl rings, coached by Bill Belichick, coached with Urban Meyer, one of the most well-respected coaches in the league by his players. So whatever the heck he's doing for the Browns in this role, he's going to excel at it, and it's going to make the Browns better, even if it's just for 1 year. And who knows, if something goes south up there, you got Vrabel right there in the building. I suppose the only drawback to this is if the Buckeyes play a close game this year early on, we'll be hearing Vrabel's right up the road. So, hey, hopefully we don't have to deal with that. But congrats to Mike. He could have had a lot of jobs, and it seemed like he kind of slow-played it and wanted to take his time, and it seemed like maybe he wanted to take a year off and go putz around with Fickell up in Madison. But whatever they're doing up there in Cleveland with him, I think it's awesome. And I've told this story before, but I was a ball boy for Walsh Jesuit when Vrabel was a junior and a senior in high school. I was 12 and 13. He was terrifying, obviously totally dominant on the field and massive. Now, recruiting wasn't like it is now back then, and I have wondered many times what kind of prospect would he be if he was coming out now with the way information gets around with recruits. He was huge and fast and smart, and his coach, Jerry Reardon, loved him. He was a captain. Everybody looked up to him. Just everything you'd want. He got good grades. I mean, I'm really curious to know what kind of recruit he would have been. And the biggest factor for him, he was a junior. He broke his back, and he was in a back brace at practice. That was the biggest thing I've ever seen. He could barely move, and he was still out there moving around at practice. But I don't know if today they might not have let him ever play again. It was pretty serious, and there was talks back then that he might never play. But he was 6'5", 230, 240 in high school as an inside linebacker, and that was a much more valuable position back then than it is now. And I actually wanted to do an episode about positions like running back and linebacker that 25 years ago were so much more valuable seemingly than they are now. There was so much more emphasis put on those positions than there is now. Linebacker and running back recruiting, and even in the pros and where they get drafted is so down compared to what it used to be. It used to be high priority spots, and it's really not anymore. It's so much more corner and wide receiver than it is linebacker and running back. But I don't know, man. It's tough to know how much of that is just me in my head making this man Superman when I was young, because when you're young, you tend to do that when somebody's an awesome athlete and is around you. But all-time sack leader at Ohio State still after all these years. Most tackles for loss in a single season at Ohio State in history with 26 in 1995. He also recorded 13 sacks in that season. He wasn't only dominant, he was exciting as heck to watch, and the combo of him and Fickell and Finkus was legendary. And this may surprise you. It surprised me when I was double-checking Mike's numbers today that Matt Finkus is number 2 in career tackles for loss and number 5 in career sacks. I didn't know that. Obviously fun to watch, and I remember him being really good, but I did not realize that he was that kind of a stat stuffer. That's pretty impressive for Matt Finkus. But pretty awesome stuff. Really excited about that. And welcome home, Mike Vrabel. Former nice guy Buckeye basketball coach Chris Holtmann has inked a 6-year deal to coach DePaul University's men's basketball team. He's got nowhere to go but up, because these guys rank 300-something out of 330 teams. I like that guy a lot. I don't know basketball enough to know quite what went wrong with him, but it seemed like most of the folks I trust thought that he should have been fired several years ago, so I'll take their word for it. And he did get a little bit of vitriol at the end. And that sucks, because it's almost like, and the guy should have been fired a long time ago, and everybody was still giving him some grace back then, like, because he's such a Seems like a solid dude who really worked his butt off. And sometimes you work your butt off and you don't go about things the right way and you're never going to win. And it seemed like that might have been the case with that guy. So I wish him luck at DePaul. He's got nowhere to go but up. That seems like a pretty big fall from Ohio State to DePaul. I'd have thought he could have done a better job than that, but I guess not, man. But hey, good for him. He got a job, and I hope he does great. And now, trouble in Columbus. Everything's falling apart. Sharon Moore is playing chess. Ryan Day is playing checkers. This is the stuff we're seeing all over now, and I knew it was coming, which is why I was partially so irritated with why Tony did what he did. But I'm over it now. He's got to go live with what he did. Sayonara. We'll see you in Columbus come the game. And that's just what it is for him. But I ran across a story today on the internet that I just got to share because I thought this was just hilarious. So there is this, first off, look at this thumbnail of this story. All right, like anybody who follows college football knows what's going on in Columbus this offseason. And if you know what's going on in Columbus this offseason, to put a headline like this on your story is just ridiculous after the running backs coach leaves. Okay, not to mention it's going to be a massive upgrade. The guy who's coming in is going to come in with his hair on fire to prove himself. It's going to be an upgrade regardless. And we know Tony wasn't, running around trying to break his back anymore. That's pretty apparent in what we've heard since he left. So anyway, this YouTube show is called Locked On Big Ten. And I don't know if you're familiar with this Locked On family of networks, but all right, so here's the business model. There's essentially this company, and it takes a bunch of independent guys who have podcasts that cover teams around the country, and it welcomes them into this network so they can now use the Locked On network for Locked On Atlanta Braves and Locked On Carolina Panthers, and they can try to use that branding that's advertised from the Locked On to grow their channel. And I don't know how the revenue works with the ads or whatever, but obviously Locked On is going to get a cut of something back from them for letting them use the Locked On name and help grow their business. And what's different about the Locked On family of networks is every single one of them I've run across has, and I'm not saying they're bad, they're not. Matter of fact, the Locked On Buckeyes guy, I think he's pretty good, but he has the same feel as this guy. And the feel is that like 1990s sportscaster on the local news kind of feel, where everything's like this, you know what I mean? Like that kind of diction. And I find that just so amazing. Like the people are still doing that this day and age, but that's what it sounds like. So it always gives me a chuckle whenever I listen to it. But sometimes I've listened to this guy a few times and he has good stuff. Well, not today. Not today. It was quite bad. It was very poor. So I'm just going to go through his story. So for starters, the headline says, Chip Kelly, trouble in Columbus, and it has a picture of Ryan Day talking to Tony Alford and then a split tear down the middle. And Chip Kelly's on the other side. So you see the picture and immediately you're thinking, uh-oh, this guy's trying to make the case that Chip Kelly is the reason Tony Alford is gone. And you'd be right. So I had to hear what the heck he had to say. So I tune in. I give this guy a click. That's my fault, but I can call it Juck on Bucks research now. You can't, so I don't know. Don't click it unless you want to laugh, but it is funny. Whatever. Give him the click. So it's really rich. He starts the show by telling us he's coming on 40 years of broadcasting as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer, and that is no surprise. Quote, so did Chip Kelly give the boot to longtime assistant at Ohio State, and is Ryan okay with it? That's the intro. Here's the bombshell story, Juck's Notes version, faster than the Cliff's Notes. So coaches don't leave during this period. That's his first point. Coaches don't make lateral movements. That's point 2. He's been a force since Urban Meyer was there. This argument was made quite a few times in the comments in my video the other day, and I just need to check you guys right there that are making that argument. Because somebody has been at a place a long time does not automatically mean that they've A, done a good job, B, deserve a raise, or C, deserve a promotion. That's not what that means. Because for every person who's been at a place and done a good job for a long time that does deserve those things, in my career, I could show you one who's done just enough. And anybody out there watching this with a lot of experience in the business world could tell you the same. There are just as many people who do just enough. And that does not automatically mean that you deserve those things because you've been there a long time, or that someone who's been there only 5 years to your 9 does not deserve those. That's just not the way it really works in real life. So if you're using that to make your argument, it's just a garbage argument anyway. And as we know now, the last 2 years, he's been resting on his laurels, so to speak. Anyways, dot number 3. Tony Alford was one of the best Buckeyes recruiters. That's just comical. We all know that. I actually saw a breakdown of it yesterday, and it's even worse than I remember when you're really actually looking down at who he brought in, where they were ranked, where they ended up. And it is a fact that J.K. Dobbins is the only guy that he recruited that's in the NFL. I think that's a little disingenuous because Trey could be getting drafted right now, and Mayan also will be probably getting drafted late round. I doubt he'll stick. I hope so for him. I really like him. But he's not a great back. I don't know that he's physically gifted enough to play too long in the NFL. So that could be 3 guys in the NFL, really. But as of now, J.K. is the only one that's been drafted in his tenure that he recruited. So, yeah, not a great job at Ohio State for 9 years, to be honest, if you're looking at it like that. Sherrone Moore and Tony Alford have never run in the same circles. In fact, they've been rivals. That's true. Ohio State has the momentum in the rivalry. That's true. 2 NCAA investigations. That's true. And then he ends it after all of these things pointing to his original statement that Chip Kelly got Tony Alford fired with the old "I'm just asking questions," which I can't stand. If you're going to make some statement like that, run through all the points, stand on what you said, man. Stand on what you said. I'm just asking questions. Oh, this guy. I couldn't believe it. I almost want you guys to watch it. I wish I could play it for you. Anyway, at the end of the day, he's just asking questions, and I'm just going to give him answers. That's not what happened, pal. There's no trouble in Columbus. It's quite stable, and all of us who follow the program closely have not felt quite so confident about the state of the program in a very long time. It's a machine right now, built to have sustained success, and it's just a matter of executing on the field. So is there any validity to what he said? I don't think so. Somebody weigh in if you do. Could it be possible that Chip Kelly had something to do with this firing? I guess it's possible. I think it's very highly unlikely. And I think Tony just made a bad career move and might have had something personal, involved in that too. I think a resume that includes a decade at Ohio State with a final season with Quinshon Judkins and Trey Henderson, having a great season together, adding Quinshon to your resume, both recruiting him and coaching him, even though we know he didn't bring him in recruiting, that would be on his resume as the running back coach. So he could have gone anywhere and done anything with that. Instead, he's going to go put 3 years of garbage on his resume up at Michigan, and his next job is going to suffer because of that. So that's my take on that. Love to hear yours. In college football transfer portal news, former Buckeye tight end Sam Hart, who transferred out earlier this year, has found a destination as he goes back home. He lives in Aurora, Colorado. He's from there, and he will now go to the University of Colorado and join Deion Sanders and his Buffs. Really can't hate on the kid for going home. I mean, he's going to his hometown school. But I can't hate on Deion, and I will every time I get a chance. So this guy now has 25 kids in his transfer portal class, and he signed 7 total kids in his recruiting class. And that recruiting class ranked 119th out of 134 schools, just below Akron, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, Ohio University, Toledo, the entire MAC, every single one of them. Deion Sanders ranked behind him in his recruiting class. And I just, listen, this guy is so, he just wants it now. He wants it all right now. He could be the best recruiter in the country. We saw this guy pull a 5-star kid to go to Jackson State. He could be the best recruiter in the country, but he refuses to do it. And it's not because he doesn't think it's the best way to do it. He knows it's the best way to build a team. It's because he doesn't want to wait, because he's not committed to doing this a long time. He wants to do it right now, and then he wants to get it done and get out. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. There's no way in heck this guy could possibly think this is a better way long term. He just wants it right now, right now, right now. Bring me in the players right now. I want to win right now. He said he's going to the playoffs this year. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if you've seen the new restructuring of the Big 12. The Big 12 is legit. There are no superstar teams anymore, but they are deep with solid teams. I'm going to put them up right here. This is Colorado's schedule. And when you look at this schedule and you go down this, these are solid teams. Every single one of them are teams that you could see, can pop up and really get somebody every now and again that's above their level, that have in the past. Teams that have track records of, winning 8 games a year. Deion went from 1 win to 4 wins when he took over. And if he can go from 4 to 7, that would be considered a big improvement, but really far from where he wants to be and where he thinks he should be. And he's not going to get there with this transfer thing he's got going on. It's just not going to work. He doesn't have the financial backing to pay for a bunch of big-time transfers, so he's getting middle-of-the-road guys and a couple of good ones. He needs to build through recruiting, and he could be an excellent recruiter, but he just refuses to do it. I've racked my brain as to why, and the only answer I can come up with is he just wants it right now. He wants it right now, and that's the reason why not. Because the dude could kill it in recruiting. He could. I mean, he just won't do it. It blows my mind. I cannot stand sideshow stories like this that come in to college football, because it brings these other people into college football who don't know the sport, and they're really loud. And boy, it was a pain dealing with them last year, and I really hope that this is the last year. I hope that he falls on his face this year and gets the hell out, because I've just had enough of those folks. But anyway, that's my take on that. Good for Sam. Congratulations. I hope you start, and I hope you kill it, but I am not rooting for the success of your team. I stumbled across this graphic today, the top 10 transfer quarterbacks in the class of 2024. And this is according to 24/7's rankings for the transfer portal. And I don't think they're saying what's going to happen with these guys in 24 and ranking them. They're just saying overall their rankings as they were in the class. So, like we know, Julian Sayin is not probably going to be starting this year, but he is number 1 on this list. But Dylan Gabriel is not on this list, and I think that's just a typo, because he was definitely rated higher than a couple of these guys for sure, probably most of them. So I don't know for sure, but I think that's a typo. But what I do find interesting is a couple things here. So Will Howard is number 7 on this list, according to their rankings, which is higher than Riley Leonard, who is the quarterback that was at Duke that went to Notre Dame. And that is kind of surprising to me. I did not know that. And Riley Leonard, a lot of people were really high on when McCord first left, and a lot of folks wanted him. Also, a lot of people wanted Malik Murphy, who was from Texas, and he transferred and he ended up at Duke. So when we talk about how McCord ended up at Syracuse and how we can just kind of see basically how much these guys were valued by, the people who put their money where their mouth is, and we can just kind of look at the market. Well, McCord ended up at Syracuse, so the market wasn't that great. And if you are looking at Malik Murphy, you're saying the same thing. This was a kid who came out of high school very highly rated, and he is now going to Duke, which, I don't know, maybe he wanted a good education. You can certainly get that there, but he really wants to be a football player and a draft pick, and you can get that done at Duke, but we just saw their starting quarterback leave for Notre Dame. So I don't think that Malik Murphy was lighting the evaluations market on fire. And it kind of surprised me that Cam Ward and Dante Moore were so much higher than him and Will Howard and Riley Leonard. But Daquan Finn from Toledo, who we all saw play at Ohio State, and some of us have followed him last couple of years. At number 10, he's going to play at Baylor, and I think that he is going to absolutely light up the Big 12, and I'm really going to be rooting for him too, because the kid's awesome. So, and now, man, this is a bummer, man. I'm just going to tell you guys, this is a sad story, but it's kind of relatable today as we're talking about Mike Vrabel. Blaze Taylor was a scout for the Titans, and Vrabel from 21 to 23. Blaze Taylor played at Arkansas State. His dad is Trooper Taylor. He's a running back coach for Texas A&M. Trooper Taylor has been on Mike Elko's staff for a while at Duke, and he moved with him over to A&M. He's also been assistant coach around forever. Been in a lot of places. Really well-known guy. Very well-known in recruiting. He was with Gene Chizik, I think, for the championship run with Cam Newton. So his son, Blaze, who was working for the Titans in Memphis, has just been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for allegedly poisoning his girlfriend, and she was pregnant and lost the baby. And that happened in in Nashville, Tennessee. And her and the baby died, and he fled out to Utah. And today, they caught up with him. Marshals caught up with him, arrested him, and charged him with murder. And that is just an unbelievable story. So Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko made a statement. Obviously, thoughts and prayers with the victims, and also with his running backs coach Trooper Taylor and his wife, who's their son has just been charged with this, in the death of his girlfriend and their grandchild. So absolutely horrible. Thoughts and prayers to them all. So anyway. Final thing here. So the running backs coach search, I've heard a lot about Deland McCullough being maybe the top candidate, and he is the running backs coach at Notre Dame. That's not a hire that's going to make us go, yeah, that's the guy. He very well could be the guy, but thus far in his career, we're talking about a guy who's recruited 2 very high-level running backs. And granted, he's not been at a place where he has been afforded to recruit high-level running backs until he got to Notre Dame a couple years ago. But, 2 top 100-ish guys, and after that, we're talking not a single guy that's ranked in the top 300. So I'm excluding his son from this. I'm talking 2 guys outside of his son, McCullough, who he recruited in Indiana. He was the highest-rated guy he's ever recruited. But we're talking 2 big-time guys, top 100-ish guys. And after that, nothing to write home about. Not to say he can't be the guy, and he's just not a guy that we would say for sure, yes, that guy can definitely get it done, because he's shown that for this number of years at a number of institutions, like a guy like Gillespie and the other guys we've been talking about. So if they end up getting McCullough, and the Bucs are in a tough spot. The coaching carousel is not going around, so they got to do the best they can do right now. But, of all the candidates that have been brought up, outside of, I don't know, maybe Pepe Pearson, that would probably be the least exciting one to me. So just wanted to weigh in on that one. But that'll do it for the show today, and I will talk to you guys Sunday. Please please subscribe. Oh, we might have a really cool Sunday show for you, so check that one out. Set the alarm bell. Let's get it.